Growing up, I wasn't one to imagine myself as a family man. My focus had always been on building a career and living freely, unburdened by the responsibilities that came with relationships. But life has a funny way of changing your plans. Meeting Dana was like stepping into a whirlwind. She wasn't just attractive, she was magnetic, pulling me into a world I never thought I'd want to be part of. We married young, and despite the ups and downs, Dana quickly became the cornerstone of my life. When Sasha was born, everything shifted. Parenthood was daunting, but it also gave me a clarity I hadn't known I needed. The joy of watching my daughter grow, coupled with Dana's steadfastness, made me believe I'd stumbled onto something rare and unshakable. Sasha informed me I needed to visit her school to meet her new teacher. Mrs. Greendale, her previous teacher, had left to care for her husband after a heart attack. I had always liked Mrs. Greendale's old-school approach, which rarely required parental involvement unless Sasha got into trouble. Normally, these meetings were my wife's responsibility, but Sasha insisted I go, mentioning her mother had been acting strangely. Reluctantly, I agreed to try, though I wasn't thrilled about stepping into unfamiliar territory. I'm Lucas McCain, a 35-year-old sales rep for Devlin International. At 5'10", with brown hair and eyes, I keep in shape by running daily. My wife and daughter are my world, even when life throws unexpected challenges our way. My wife, Dana, is active with the school's PTA, or whatever they call it now. She's petite, claiming to be 5 feet tall, but every time I measure her, she's closer to 4'11". Dana is curvy, and I've always loved her figure. We've been married 14 years, and for the past 10, we've focused entirely on raising and spoiling our daughter. With just 8 years until Sasha heads to college, Dana and I are already dreaming about finally having the house to ourselves and doing whatever we want, whenever we want. Sasha wasn't wrong about one thing. Dana had been acting strangely. The last time she acted like this, she was pregnant with Sasha. Back then, she quietly prepared for the baby before even telling me, partly because I hadn't shown much interest in having kids. But the moment my little girl was born, when I cut her umbilical cord and gave her that first playful pat, she became my whole world. Dana came home late and went straight to the shower, something she'd been doing more often lately, once or twice a week at least. At the time, I didn't think much of it. Women tend to shower more than men anyway. Looking back, I realize how oblivious I was. Honestly, most of us are. Marriage is built on love and trust, trusting that the person you love won't hurt you or betray you. You never expect them to shatter that trust. Love blinds us. If you're constantly paranoid about being betrayed, your relationship isn't healthy. If trust isn't there, then love isn't real. Some might think, I'd know if my wife was running around on me. Trust me, when it happens, you're often the last to figure it out. The next day, I showed up at Sasha's school just in time to pick her up. What I didn't expect was to pick my jaw up off the floor. Standing in front of Sasha's classroom was the most gorgeous woman I'd ever seen. She wore jeans and a nice blouse, her back to me as I walked in. Her figure was striking, with an inverted heart-shaped silhouette. When she turned, her radiant smile and cascade of tawny hair over her shoulders stunned me. Her chest wasn't as full as Dana's, but honestly, who cared? I stared at her for so long I didn't realize she was speaking to me. They didn't make teachers like this when I was growing up. She was tall for a woman, probably 5'8", and much slimmer than Dana. Not that I was comparing them, but she was breathtaking. That's the word, breathtaking. "Daddy," Sasha snapped. "Miss Marshall is talking to you." "Sorry," I stammered. I spaced out. "I'm, Sasha's dad, Lucas McCain. But you can call me Luke." I extended my hand and she shook it warmly, flashing another dazzling smile. That smile could sell anything. "Sorry for calling you in on short notice," she said, smiling again. "I'm new here, but the school values parental involvement. Sasha is one of my brightest, kindest, and most helpful students." Her soft southern accent stretched each word into a melody. I could have listened to her talk forever. I smiled proudly at Sasha, and she smiled back, holding out her hand. I gave her a crisp high five, but she frowned. "Dad, when someone holds out their hand, you're supposed to give them money," she grumbled. Miss Marshall, or Gianna, as she insisted I call her, continued. "Neither you nor your wife have participated in any projects or committees this year." Miss Marshall?" "Please, call me Gianna," she said. "Doesn't the PTA count?" I asked. "It does," she replied, smiling again. "Are you a member of the PTA?" "Well, no," I admitted. "But my wife is. She's at every meeting on Wednesday nights. She's never missed one." Miss Marshall's expression shifted as she said, "Maybe I'm mistaken, but the PTA meets on Tuesdays, and only on the third Tuesday of every month." My stomach dropped. I needed to figure out what was going on with Dana. "Why don't you consider joining one of our committees or clubs anyway?" she suggested sympathetically. "That way, even if your wife is in the PTA, you'll still be involved." Her tone carried a kindness that made it seem like she understood my situation. I scanned the list of activities and finally landed on track. "I think I could help with this," I said. "I'm not an expert, but I run every day and have completed a few marathons." "That's perfect," she replied with a smile. "They meet on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 5 p.m. On the way home, Sasha and I stopped at McDonald's. It wasn't the healthiest dinner, but she loved it, and it saved me from cooking. I knew Dana wouldn't beat us home anyway, even though she got off work earlier than I did. Some people like to think things through while sitting in their favorite chair or going for a long walk. My preferred method of reflection? Washing my red Mustang GT. As I rinsed the car, I started organizing my thoughts about Dana's behavior. I realized that PTA meetings only happen once a month, not every week. Dana had joined the PTA 2 months ago, meaning she'd been doing something else 6 to 8 times since then. As I soaked up the car, I decided to call a friend. "Hey, Hop," I said when he picked up. "Hey, Luke, how's it going?" he asked. "Not great," I laughed. "Remember when you thought Tia was cheating on you? What was the name of that agency you used?" "Oh man, don't remind me," he said, chuckling. "All that did was make some lawyers and private investigators richer." "Well, I told you she wasn't cheating," I replied. "She was just taking classes at the community college because she thought you were embarrassed by her accent and limited English." "Yeah, I remember," he said with a laugh. "Anyway, the agency was called Ponderosa Investigations. They're in the phone book, and they're good." "Thanks, Hop," I said before hanging up. Hop and I had known each other since we were kids playing baseball. I called information to get the number for Ponderosa Investigations and reached out to them. They told me someone could be at my house within minutes since their office was nearby. I was polishing my chrome Hilo Tees rims when the car pulled up. A man stepped out, slipped on sunglasses, and joked, "Your chrome is so bright, I thought I'd go blind. My dad had a 70 Boss 302 Mustang. He babied as much as you baby this one." I nodded, grinning. I loved classic Mustangs, too. "Lucas McCain," I said, offering my hand. "My friends call me Luke." The man shook my hand firmly. "Joseph Cartwright," he said, "but my friends call me Little Joe." At 5'4", his nickname made sense. "Why don't we head inside and talk?" I said. On the way in, I explained my suspicions. He listened carefully, then walked me through their services. He installed a recording device on the landline, and since I paid for her cell phone, said they might be able to monitor that as well. He also placed small cameras around the house, giving me the option of viewing live feeds or receiving a weekly DVD summary. I opted for the weekly DVD, which was more budget-friendly. "How expensive is this going to be?" I asked. "How much is peace of mind worth to you?" he replied, hinting it wouldn't be cheap. "In the end, you'll think it was worth it," he added. "Explain that," I said. "Well, if she's not cheating, you'll know for sure and can let go of your doubts," he said. "You'll be able to trust her again and focus on strengthening your marriage. All the stress this is causing will disappear, and you'll feel relieved. And if she is cheating, then you'll have evidence to confront her, or even to file for divorce if it comes to that. Either way, you'll stop feeling like a fool and can move forward with your life." "I see your point," I said as he left. I returned to polishing my car. About 30 minutes later, Dana came home. She seemed cheerful and walked over to watch me work, a new habit for her. "Dana, I don't like being watched while I work," I told her. "It's not you. It just gets on my nerves." "Okay, honey," she said, smiling. "I'll see you when you come inside." After finishing with the car, I went inside. Dana sat beside me as I watched TV, acting unusually friendly. It felt odd. Needing some space, I got up and went to take a shower. When I got out of the shower, Dana was still there. Instead of sitting on the sofa with her, I chose the chair. "I'm going to bed," she said. "Are you coming?" "I'll be there soon. I just want to catch the news," I replied, pretended to fall asleep on the sofa. When she came in to wake me up so I could join her in bed, I just rolled over as if I were sound asleep. The next morning, I got up early, ready for work, and grabbed coffee as Dana and Sasha stumbled into the kitchen. I kissed Sasha goodbye and left before Dana realized I was gone. Later, Dana called me at work. "You didn't say goodbye this morning. Did I do something wrong?" "What are you talking about, Dana?" I asked. "For 16 years, you've always kissed me goodbye unless we were upset. Even when we argued, you'd do it to break the ice. It means a lot to me," she said. "I'll try to remember," I replied curtly. "What happened last night?" "I was in the mood," she added. I brushed her comment off, careful not to let my suspicions show. "I know you have your PTA meeting tonight, Dana," I said coldly. "We'll talk later." Frustrated, I called my friend Hop. "Who was the lawyer your aunt used for her divorce?" I asked. Hop hesitated. "I don't remember, but I can give you the number of the one I was going to use." "No thanks, that guy was too soft. I want someone aggressive," I said. "I'll call my aunt and get the number," Hop replied. Minutes later, Hop called back. Her name is Ann Wilson. She's with the Hart Agency and has a reputation as the toughest divorce lawyer in the state. I immediately called her office. When she answered, her initial tone was sharp. "What do you want now?" she snapped. Caught off guard, I cautiously asked, "Is this Ann Wilson?" Her tone softened. "Sorry, I thought you were my ex-husband." Reassured by her toughness, I explained my situation. At first, she was skeptical, accusing me of being another cheating husband trying to hire her so my wife couldn't. "Let me explain," I said firmly. "I've never cheated. My wife is betraying me and our daughter. I don't have proof yet, but I'm working with a private investigator. I need to move quickly to minimize the impact on my daughter." Her tone shifted. "I'm sorry you're going through this. Let's meet this afternoon to discuss your case." The rest of the day, I struggled to focus, replaying everything in my mind. For a moment, I questioned if I'd failed Dana somehow, but reality reminded me that her betrayal wasn't my fault. Just before 3 p.m., my phone rang. A warm, slightly southern voice instantly brightened my mood. "I hope it's all right to call," Gianna said. "I wanted to remind you about our meeting tomorrow afternoon. Wear something comfortable. We'll do a light group run with the kids." "Got it," I said, trying to sound casual. Her playful goodbye lingered in my mind, leaving me wondering if there was more to her words than she let on, but I shook off the thought, unsure if it was just my imagination. After picking Sasha up from school, we spent a couple of hours playing Little Big Planet on the PlayStation. Later, I grilled steaks and made a salad for dinner. Sasha went to her room to work on homework and chat with her friends while I browsed Mustang parts online. Convinced my car needed a chin spoiler, I settled in to watch Iron Man 2 on Blu-ray. The surround sound was so loud I didn't hear Dana come in. She wrapped her arms around me, startling me as she tried to kiss me. I stood up, putting distance between us. "That's what you get for blasting the volume," she teased. "How's Sasha supposed to sleep?" "Sorry," I muttered, turning back to the TV. "What smells so good?" she asked, sniffing the air. "Steaks. Sasha and I figured you wouldn't want dinner since you usually shower and rest after your meetings," I said. She hesitated, nodded, and headed to the bedroom. Her reaction made me wonder if I'd said too much. Later, I thought about everything Ann Wilson, my lawyer, had asked me to prepare: income and tax records, a list of assets, and Sasha's custody details. I hoped the divorce would end cleanly. Community property laws meant an even split, though the house, being my parents', wasn't part of it. I wanted full custody of Sasha with liberal visitation for Dana, and I just wanted it over so I could move forward. "Are you coming to bed?" Dana asked as I reviewed my plans. "Maybe later," I replied. "Why are you avoiding me?" she pressed. "Did I do something wrong?" "Dana, for 2 months you've been distant. Sasha and I never know which version of you is coming home. Maybe we're just giving you space to figure it out," I said, my frustration spilling over. Grabbing my car keys, I headed for the door. "Where are you going?" she asked, tears in her eyes. "For a drive to cool off," I said flatly. "Should I come?" "Maybe we can talk," she offered. "No, Sasha doesn't need to wake up because of this. Unless, of course, you forgot she's here because I'm the one always taking care of her," I replied sharply. Dana started crying, reaching for me. "Luke, I love you and Sasha. You know that." "You have a strange way of showing it," I said, walking out. Driving my Mustang at night was liberating. The engine's roar and the attention it drew reminded me of the power and escape it offered. But my thoughts kept circling back to Dana. What could she be thinking? Why risk everything for someone else? Our intimacy life had been fine, and I knew I wasn't inadequate. Was she bored, or was this more than physical? Her behavior toward Sasha suggested something deeper. I drove aimlessly for an hour before heading home. The house was dark, and I assumed Dana had gone to bed. After a quick shower, I slipped into bed, staying on my side to maintain distance until I knew for sure what was going on. Dana slid closer. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "Work has been stressful. I didn't realize how it was affecting me. How can I make it up to you?" "Treat Sasha better," I replied curtly. "For now, I was thinking of something more personal," she said, running her hand across my stomach. When she moved lower, I caught her hand and moved it away. "What's wrong?" she asked, stunned. In 14 years, I'd never rejected her. "I need sleep. I have a big day tomorrow," I said, rolling over. "But, good night, Dana," I said firmly, ending the conversation. The next morning, I woke up feeling surprisingly refreshed. After a quick breakfast, I went to our home office and began organizing the documents Ann Wilson had requested: tax returns, income statements, and a list of our assets and responsibilities regarding Sasha. By lunchtime, I faxed everything over to Ann's office so she could begin drafting the divorce papers. Now all I needed was proof, and I hoped little Joe had made progress. Over the years, I'd heard various sayings about marriage and divorce, and I was beginning to question their validity. The first was that you couldn't just stop loving someone unless you'd never truly loved them. I used to believe that, but now I knew better. Love can absolutely fade, depending on the circumstances. Just 3 days ago, I'd loved Dana with everything I had. I thought she was my soulmate, the woman I'd grow old with. But the realization that she might have betrayed me had shifted everything. If she had cheated, we might still grow old, but it wouldn't be together. The second saying was that men never know when their wives are cheating. Husbands are often portrayed as clueless unless they stumble onto hard evidence like a strange car in the driveway. Even then, some wives manage to explain it away. That didn't describe me at all. I wasn't oblivious, and I wasn't going to let her string me along. I needed to move on, though I knew I couldn't fully remove her from my life. She was Sasha's mother. For the next 8 years, we'd have to navigate custody, graduations, and major life events. Hopefully, in time, I'd meet someone new and get over her. Maybe I'd even stop feeling repulsed every time I saw her. As I worked through the afternoon, my thoughts kept drifting back to when we first got together. I remembered how deeply I loved her, how much I'd hoped we'd stay together forever. My emotions swung wildly between resentment and longing. At one point, I even considered marriage counseling or trying to forgive her. That thought barely lasted a second. There was no way I could forgive her if she'd been unfaithful. Thinking fondly of another person was one thing, but acting on it was crossing a line. I'd had fleeting crushes before, even recently on Sasha's new teacher, Gianna. But there's a big difference between admiring someone and betraying your marriage. Most men look. It's human nature. But when you take it further, when you act on those thoughts, that's when everything changes. Dana called me at work, but I didn't pick up. She tried my cell phone next, but I ignored that too. She left a message saying how much she loved me and that we needed to talk. I listened to it and then deleted it. I picked Sasha up from school at the usual time. She seemed excited, but I couldn't remember why. "Dad, are we going to eat first, or are we heading straight to the park?" Sasha asked. "Who said we were going to the park today?" I replied. "Oh no," she said, rolling her eyes. "You forgot, didn't you? You're supposed to help with the track club today." We drove home and I quickly changed into a track suit, figuring that's what the other volunteers or coaches would wear. I was ready to leave when Sasha reminded me to grab my iPad. I handed it to her. "Thanks, Dad," she said with a grin. "Now I have something to do while I watch you watching people run." When we arrived at the park, I surveyed the area to see where the kids were gathering. The park was bowl-shaped, with the parking lot at the top and the trails and other facilities downhill. Past the empty tennis courts, I spotted a group of familiar faces, some parents and kids Sasha knew. I joined the group, and a few minutes later, I glanced up the hill. A Jeep pulled into the spot next to my Mustang, and I saw Gianna step out and begin chatting with Sasha. As she made her way down the hill, I noticed she was also wearing a tracksuit. Every dad there seemed to gulp in unison when she joined the group and introduced herself. One guy, who had just been saying he couldn't wait for the teacher to arrive so he could leave, suddenly decided to stay and watch. I chuckled inwardly. Gianna had the same effect on them that she'd had on me. I couldn't wait for them to hear her voice and accent. Gianna called the kids together and introduced me as her assistant or co-coach. She explained that this was a cross-country club for now, not an official team. Practices would be twice a week, but she encouraged the kids to run on their own as well. If all went well, tryouts for a cross-country team would be held in the fall, with meets against other schools. She told the parents they could either stay or return in an hour to pick up their kids. Most chose to leave, until Gianna prepared to start the run. When she removed her track pants to reveal shorts, every dad decided to stay. We gathered the kids for a brief warm-up and started a slow group run along the trails. I trailed behind the group to ensure no one got hurt or fell behind. Despite the slow pace, all the kids kept up easily, even those who weren't as fit. On our second lap, Gianna drifted back to join me. "Hey there," she said with a smile. "Are you all right?" I nodded silently. "That bad?" she asked. "I've been thinking about it and I wanted to apologize." "For what?" I asked, puzzled. "Well, I replayed our conversation in my head and realized I might have been a bit insensitive," she said. "How could you have known I was clueless enough to believe my wife was in the PTA and not check the meeting schedule?" I asked. "That's not clueless. It's trust," she replied. "It's a sign of a good person." "If I'm such a good person, why do I feel so awful?" I asked. "Oh, it hurts terribly at first," she said, her tone shifting. "But then after a while, it gets worse." Her exaggerated expression made me laugh. Even some of the kids noticed her playful sourness. "It sounds like you've been through it," I said. "Hard to believe, though." "Why? Because I'm cute?" She laughed. Her laugh started as a giggle and ended in a snort. My ex was so jealous of every man who even looked at me that I couldn't go anywhere or do anything. I would have loved to have someone who trusted me like you trust your wife. Trust is a gift. And if you don't trust someone, how can you really say you love them? She hesitated before continuing. Even though he didn't trust me at all, he was the one cheating. He said he needed new conquests to stay entertained. He fought the divorce, but eventually it was finalized. That was 3 years ago, and I'm just now able to be around men again. I'll do my best not to act like one then, I joked. Men, can't stand them. I don't hate men, she said with a soft smile. But I went through a lot of bitterness and self-pity. Where I'm from, if you can't keep your man happy, you're seen as not much of a woman. You're very much a woman, I blurted. The whole time we'd been running, it had been difficult not to notice her toned legs, her perfect figure, and those tight shorts. Even though her chest wasn't as full as Dana's, everything about her seemed perfectly proportional. Noticed that, did you? She teased with a knowing smile. Her expression said a lot. She was interested in me on some level. She knew the effect she had on men, and she wasn't above a little flirting. After the second lap, we brought the kids back to the clearing where we'd started. We led them through a few stretching exercises, praised their efforts, and handed them off to their parents. Several parents stayed to ask questions. Most of the dads, however, just wanted to know how I became Gianna's assistant and whether there were any other openings. Once the last child left, Gianna and I walked back to the parking lot. Sasha hopped out of the car to meet us. "Dad, can we go to Pizza Hut?" she asked. "I guess so," I said, smiling. "Good," she said. "It's Miss Marshall's favorite restaurant." I glanced at Gianna. "So, Miss Marshall, since it's your favorite place?" "Well, Mr. McCain," she replied. "I'd love to join you, but why don't we meet in 45 minutes? That gives both of us time to shower and change. You've got to be comfortable to eat pizza," she added with a laugh. "Okay, see you then," Sasha said, tugging my arm. "Come on, Dad, you need a shower." 45 minutes later, Sasha and I pulled up in front of the town's only Pizza Hut. We found a table and were browsing the menu when Gianna walked in. Every guy in the place turned to look at her. She smiled at me, and I could feel its warmth from across the room. But I also felt the eyes of every man there scrutinizing me, and I wondered what it would be like to date someone who attracted so much attention. How would anyone handle the constant looks and advances? I stood and pulled out her chair, earning another smile. We had a great time and ate plenty of pizza. Sasha spent some time playing video games, giving Gianna and me a chance to talk. The evening felt almost magical. At one point, Gianna asked how things were going with my marriage. I gave her an update, and she shook her head. "It's going to get worse before it gets better," she said. "Wait until you're in your lawyer's office. Arguing over a coffee table neither of you even wants. You reach a point where you don't want to give them a single thing more than they've already taken from you." She paused, then smiled. "Sorry, this must be a terrible first date for you." "This is a date?" I asked. I wasn't sure I was ready to start dating yet. What if Dana wasn't cheating? What if it turned out to be something else, like gambling? That would make me the cheater, wouldn't it? I knew I should say something to Gianna, but I didn't. I let the evening unfold as it would. Sasha wore herself out playing games and hanging out with other kids at the restaurant. By the time we left, she was so tired I had to carry her into the house and tuck her into bed. We'd stayed out far later than I planned, mostly because Gianna was so easy to talk to. She had a way of drawing you in, like a wind-up toy that just kept going, sharing stories and insights. When I slipped into bed later that night, I tried not to wake Dana, but she rolled over and hugged me as soon as I lay down. "Where'd you guys go?" she asked. "Pizza Hut," I replied. "I wondered why your iPad wasn't on the desk, so Sasha played with her friends. And you browsed car parts, right?" she said with a chuckle. "You're such a good dad, sweetie, and you're a wonderful husband. I'm sorry for how I've been acting," she added softly. "I love you, Luke. Can we start the makeup now?" Even in the dim moonlight, I could see Dana's body, her intentions obvious. She'd come to bed without clothes, ready to make amends. But all I could think about was the possibility that she'd already been intimate with someone else. There was no way I'd let her touch me until I knew the truth. "Tonight's not good," I said, leaving her stunned for the second night in a row. "I think I'm coming down with a cold, and I don't want you to catch it." I wished I could read Dana's mind as she lay there, staring at me. Did she think I was clueless, or was she just feeling guilty? Either way, I was done trying to guess. The next morning, I left early again, waking Sasha to remind her not to mention the previous night to her mother. "She hardly talks to me anyway, Dad," Sasha replied. "Why should today be any different?" A couple of hours into my workday, a package arrived via messenger. I signed for it and opened it to find 2 discs and a stack of papers. I inserted one disc into my computer and played a file dated the previous Wednesday. The video showed Dana walking into a cheap motel with a tall man I barely recognized. A few seconds later, the camera angle changed, showing them inside the room. The man was Chuck Connors, one of Dana's co-workers. I didn't watch for long, just enough to confirm they weren't there to play cards. Some men might have wanted to watch the whole video, maybe even repeatedly. Not me. I felt sick to my stomach. Gianna had been right. As bad as it was to suspect Dana, seeing proof was far worse, especially when I noticed things she let Chuck do that she'd never even suggested with me. I made a copy of the video for Ann Wilson. I also copied the disc containing phone recordings and added it to the file of documents, which included details about Chuck Connors, their meetings, and other relevant information. With everything packaged and ready, I felt a grim sense of closure. The next steps were in motion. I called Ponderosa Investigations to thank them for their excellent work and informed them I no longer needed their services. They had done their job, but their rates were high and I didn't see the point in continuing. A couple of hours later, Ann called to let me know everything was ready. The papers were finalized and all she'd needed was Chuck's name to include him in the suit. While our state didn't allow lawsuits for alienation of affection, I could sue him for mental anguish due to the stress his affair with Dana had caused Sasha and me. Ann explained that we might not collect anything from Chuck, but the goal was to ruin his reputation. The suit would alert his wife and family to his actions and likely cost him his job, especially when we also filed against the company. Once the lawsuit was public record, it would haunt him during any future background checks. It was a strategic move, and I could see why Ann was worth her fees. She also explained that we wouldn't use all our ammunition at once. First, we'd finalize the divorce and secure the settlement agreement. Only after a judge approved it would we sue Chuck and the company. This timing ensured Dana's income at the time of settlement, making the divisions seem fair. Once the settlement was signed, Dana losing her job wouldn't be our problem. Ann also advised me to listen to the audio recordings on the second disc if I hadn't already. Dana had been considering ending things with Chuck. When Ann asked if that made any difference to me, my answer was simple. Nope. I told her I needed a day or two to decide when and how to serve the papers. Ann suggested serving them at Dana's workplace, emphasizing the embarrassment it would cause and the signal it would send to her company's leadership. I agreed to think about it, but happiness was far from what I felt when I hung up. The weekend flew by. On Saturday, I took Sasha and her friends to the zoo, and on Sunday, I polished my Mustang again. By Monday, I couldn't face work, so I called in sick and took the car to a shop to have the chin spoiler installed. I didn't trust myself to do it, given my mood. While waiting, I called Ann Wilson and asked her to have Dana served at work on Wednesday. Shortly after, Dana called. "Why aren't you at work?" she asked. "I'm not feeling well," I replied. "Decided to have some work done on the car." "You could have told me," she said. "I felt stupid calling your office and finding out you weren't there. We're supposed to be married, you know." "Sometimes it's hard to tell," I said. "Luke, I love you," she said. "Can't we just promise to leave work stress out of our home?" "Fine, Dana," I replied flatly. No more work stress at home. As I hung up, I muttered, "What a joke," refusing to believe her excuses. Minutes later, Gianna called. Her warm southern tone instantly lifted my spirits. "Why aren't you at work?" she asked. "I'm feeling down," I admitted, explaining my day. "I didn't call to pry," she interrupted. "Sorry for unloading," I said. "You're not a burden," she replied. "I just don't want us to fall into the friend zone." "Friend zone?" I asked, surprised. "Absolutely not," she snapped. "I've had enough friends. I called to plan our second date." "Torn about what?" I asked, still confused. "Second dates are tricky. Do we bring Sasha or not? She likes me, but after our second date, there's bound to be a goodnight kiss, and she might not enjoy seeing that," Gianna teased. "Are you planning to kiss me?" I asked nervously. "Of course," she laughed. "It's protocol." We planned a picnic for the next evening with Sasha and her friend Beth. At home, Sasha pointed out Dana wasn't working late. Dana was in the kitchen cooking, which surprised both of us. "Why are you home?" I asked. "No overtime tonight," Dana said, smiling. "I wanted family time." Later, she cornered me. "I've been thinking, what about having another baby?" I kept my face neutral. "I'll think about it," I said, grabbing my keys. I spent the next hour photographing my Mustang, documenting its transformation, my personal escape. Leaving Sasha alone with Dana wasn't ideal, but I needed the space to clear my head. Driving along the empty roads, I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Dana's sudden sweetness could mean two things. Either she genuinely wanted to save our marriage, or she was scheming again. Was she trying to trap me with another baby? Did she suspect I knew about her affair and thought a pregnancy would make me stay? Or worse, was she already pregnant with his child and hoping I'd take the blame? Then there was the guilt. Was I ready to cut her out because she betrayed me? Or was it because I had someone better waiting? Was I any better than her, dating before the divorce was final? I hadn't initiated anything, but I wasn't stopping it either. It all came down to timing. Dana had been cheating on me for over a month. In my mind, the moment she slept with Chuck Connors, our marriage ended. I felt justified seeking happiness elsewhere. As for a baby, if Dana was pregnant, we'd get a DNA test. If it was mine, I'd pay child support and be involved in the child's life. But our marriage was over. There was no going back. I drove aimlessly for a while, enjoying my car but knowing I'd eventually have to return home. Dana was still awake when I walked in. "Ready, Daddy?" she asked. "No," I replied honestly. "Dana, things aren't fine just because you've decided they are. You've been treating Sasha and me poorly for months. Having another baby won't fix this." Her face fell. "But I love you, Luke," she said. "I love you too. But this isn't something we can fix overnight." She looked devastated. "Don't worry," I added. "It's not like you're already pregnant. We haven't been intimate in weeks." "Maybe that's why I miss you so much," she said, stepping closer and rubbing against me. "Dana, stop," I said firmly, and went to the bedroom, leaving her crying. The next morning, I showered, got ready, and left for work without another word. She was still on the couch, looking rough. After work, I changed at the office, picked up Sasha, and went to practice. As usual, parents and kids were gathered. Some women glanced my way, even the married ones. It felt like infidelity was in the air lately. "Hey, remember I'm first in line," Gianna teased, wrapping her hands briefly around my waist. It wasn't inappropriate, but it made her intentions clear to anyone watching. We started the group run, picking up the pace slightly. The kids who kept up easily would likely form the track team, while the others would stay in the club to build endurance. After practice, most parents and kids left, though a few dads lingered to admire Gianna. Soon, it was just us and Beth, who was spending the night with Sasha. We drove to the park for the picnic. Sasha and Beth sat on a bench, entertained by my iPad, while Gianna and I laid out the food. We sat on a blanket staring at each other. Her eyes held something I'd never seen in Dana's: hope, longing, and maybe a touch of desperation, all focused on me. "Too soon," she said with a glance toward the girls. "But hold that thought." We talked about our lives, our dreams, and our non-negotiables: fidelity, honesty, and trust. I asked why anyone would ever cheat on her. She explained that men often fixated on her looks, but once the novelty wore off, she became just another woman to them. They'd move on to someone else, always chasing the next attractive face. She wanted someone who loved her soul, not just her appearance. Her biggest dream was simple: to be a wife and mother. I shared that my needs were similar. The girls joined us on the blanket a few times, grabbing snacks. At one point, Sasha asked, "Dad, is Miss Marshall your girlfriend now?" "I think she is," Beth chimed in. "But maybe they're just friends because they don't kiss. My mom has 3 boyfriends, and they all kiss her." "Time to head home," I said. "I'll see you at practice Thursday," Gianna said as she stood. "Nope," I replied. "Follow me home. It's time to move this along." "Move what along?" she asked. "The divorce, and the rest of my life," I smiled. We packed up, loaded the kids into Gianna's Jeep, and headed to my house. On the way, I called Chuck. "Chuck, this is Lucas McCain," I said cheerfully. "Do I know you?" he asked, tension clear in his voice. He knew exactly who I was. "There's no need to play games, Chuck," I said. "You've been with my wife Dana for 2 months now. At this point, we're practically friends considering what we've shared." "It was her idea," Chuck blurted, his voice defensive. "I don't care whose idea it was," I replied. "As adults, it's time to talk about our options. So, unless you prefer I speak with your wife about this, you need to get to my house now. I'll be home in 10 minutes. If you're not there within 15, I'll come find you." When we pulled up, Dana's car was already in the driveway. Sasha and Beth ran inside while I hung back with Gianna. "This will be interesting," I said. "Luke, don't do anything crazy," she warned, pulling me close as she perched on my car hood. "Trust me," I said. "I'm not after a fight. Chuck didn't betray me. Dana did. I just want my divorce and to move on. This should be simple." "You forgot something," she said, then leaned in and kissed me. Time froze. The moment ended only when Dana's angry screaming broke through. "What are you doing?" she yelled. "Moving on," I said calmly. "Moving on with what?" she snapped. But I held up a hand to silence her. "Oh good, Chuck's here," I said as he pulled into the driveway, stumbling out of his car, unable to take his eyes off Gianna. I hugged her, and she drove off as Chuck muttered, "That woman is stunning." Dana grew pale. "Why are you here, Chuck?" she demanded. "I invited him," I said. "Let's go inside and talk." Inside, Chuck sat down and immediately asked, "Who was that woman?" My patience snapped. I punched him square in the nose, sending him and the chair sprawling. When he tried to stand, I kicked him back down. "Why'd you hit me?" he yelled. "I called you here to talk," I said coldly. "You're a married man who chases after other men's wives. You've already ruined my marriage, and now you're ogling Gianna. Let me be clear. Gianna is off limits. Look at her again, and I swear you'll regret it. Dana is all yours. Take her." "I don't want Dana," he scoffed. "I already have a wife, and she's better looking. This was just lovemaking, and honestly, it wasn't even good. If it weren't so easy, I wouldn't have bothered." "You're disgusting," Dana snapped. "I broke it off because I realized Luke might know, and you weren't worth losing my marriage over. Then why did you call me today?" Chuck shot back. "Because Luke hasn't touched me in over a week," Dana admitted. "You two can sort this out elsewhere," I said, cutting them off. "What do you mean?" Dana asked, her voice trembling. "I mean, you two have been carrying on for weeks. You might as well stay together. Chuck, help her pack, and you can be out of here in 20 minutes. Or grab her essentials now and come back tomorrow while I'm at work." They both stared at me in stunned silence. "I'm not taking her anywhere," Chuck finally said. "Oh, yes, you are," I said firmly. "She's your responsibility now. Whether you move her in with your wife or get her a motel, that's up to you. But if you want to keep your marriage intact, you'd better figure it out fast." "Dana," I said calmly, "you didn't just cheat on me. You betrayed everything we built together. Our marriage, our daughter, our memories, and our dreams for the future. For 2 months, you treated Sasha and me like we didn't matter. This is over." Tears streamed down her face. "Luke, I swear I only love you. Chuck was a mistake. I felt old and insecure, and he made me feel desirable again. Please, give me another chance. Women need to feel attractive." "Dana, did I ever make you feel unattractive? I always wanted us to grow old together." "This wasn't just about appearances or sex. I really loved you," I replied. Her tone turned defensive. "What about that girl you kissed? You're doing the same thing." "No, it's different," I said. "That was the first time I kissed Gianna, and we haven't slept together. I only met her because of your lies." "Lies?" she asked, confused. "Gianna is Sasha's teacher," I explained. "If you had gone to even one PTA meeting in the past 2 months, I'd never have met her." I laid it out plainly. "Tomorrow, my lawyer will serve you with divorce papers. You have 2 choices. Sign the amicable ones listing irreconcilable differences, or I'll file the hard set. Either way, the house stays with me. It belongs to my parents. We'll share custody of Sasha, and you can visit her whenever you want." "I don't want a divorce," Dana begged. "I'll do anything. Sleep with her for revenge if you want, then we can move past this. You and Chuck were just lovemaking, right?" I asked. Both nodded quickly. "Well, Gianna and I are much more than that. As soon as I'm free, I'm going to marry her." Chuck shifted uncomfortably. "Why don't you two work this out after I leave?" "No, Chuck," I said firmly. "She's going with you. Either you take her, or your marriage ends tonight." Dana tried another angle. "I'll stay with my mom for a few days until you calm down." "You're an adult, Dana. Do whatever you want, as long as it involves leaving here," I said before heading to the kitchen. The next few weeks were peaceful. I focused on spoiling Sasha and getting to know Gianna better. While we spent plenty of time together, Gianna and I agreed to wait until our wedding night to be intimate. Dana called constantly at work and home, but I ignored her. However, I made sure she had access to Sasha whenever she wanted. Her parents also called, pleading with me to take her back, saying one mistake shouldn't destroy a family. I told them I deserved a happy life too, and I couldn't be happy with someone who cheated on me for over a month, and might even be pregnant with someone else's child. At one point, Dana went to Gianna's school to plead for another chance. Gianna listened, but told her about her own painful experience of being cheated on and how it felt to give everything to someone who didn't value it. I think that helped Dana understand what I was going through. What hit her hardest was coming to the house one evening. She saw Gianna grading papers on the porch swing while I napped with my head in her lap. Sasha sat nearby, chatting on the phone like any preteen. We looked like a happy, loving family, everything Dana had thrown away. She stood there crying, but I didn't notice until Gianna kissed me awake and pointed toward her retreating figure. "Go talk to her," Gianna urged. I caught Dana as she reached her car. "Did you need something?" I asked, keeping my tone neutral. "And why haven't you sent the signed papers back yet?" "I came to talk about us," she sniffled. "You're not doing this right." "Not doing what right?" I asked, genuinely puzzled. "Dana," she began, "I talked to some divorced friends. They said you should have been angry, fought for me, and argued over custody of Sasha. You were supposed to move into a miserable little apartment, lonely and bitter, until I offered a mercy fling. Then we'd slowly rebuild, with the understanding that I love you, but that I might take lovers occasionally, and you'd look the other way to avoid losing me again." She was crying now. Chuck was just Zex, Luke. He wasn't as good as you. And honestly, I just wanted to feel young and wild again. For a while, I thought I had it all. You for tender, loving moments, and him for something rough and reckless. But then you stopped being intimate with me, and I got desperate. I ended it with Chuck, but when I saw you with Gianna, I panicked. At first, I was furious, but later I thought it might even things out. If you slept with her, we could call it even, and I could win you back. I went to see her last week. She talked to me about your relationship and even helped me understand myself better. Then I realized the truth. She really loves you, probably as much as I do. She's not going to give you up. It hit me that I've lost you, and I came today hoping to talk you out of the divorce. I thought maybe you'd agree to spend 2 months with her, then come back to rebuild our marriage and family. But I see now that you're happy, and she's even won over Sasha. You three look like the family we never were. Her tears flowed freely. I messed up everything. Chuck never cared about me. He used me. He's already moved on to one of the secretaries. The people at work either avoid me or treat me like I'm nothing more than a joke. I'm living on my parents' couch, and I'm the laughingstock among our old friends. Even Sasha acts like I'm a stranger when I call. I've lost my husband, my daughter, my home, my future, and the man I thought I'd grow old with. All for nothing. Isn't there any way to fix this? She pleaded. I'm sorry, Dana, I said gently. You've raised a lot of points, but you've missed others. What people told you about how this should go doesn't matter. Every situation is different. The house was never yours. It's been in my family for years. I wasn't going to fight for you because the moment you cheated, I didn't want you anymore. Chuck should have fought to take you, but he didn't care enough. As for the way people are treating you, actions have consequences. When I found out about you and Chuck, I was devastated, and I didn't deserve that pain. You didn't lose everything, you threw it away, and it's now with someone who values it more than you ever did. I looked at her as she cried. Sometimes, when you break something, it can't be fixed. Whether you love someone for 14 years or 14 seconds, breaking their heart hurts the same. When you break promises to someone who loves you, you risk losing them forever. Dana, I know this is hard for you, but with Sasha, you're still her mother and always will be. I'll never stop you from seeing her. You're welcome to come over for dinner or spend holidays with us. Gianna won't mind, but there will never be another chance for us. Dana signed the divorce papers, and it was finalized. I sued Chuck Connors for the emotional distress he caused me and Sasha, and also sued the company where he and Dana worked. Both were fired. Chuck's wife divorced him, taking everything, and he disappeared from our lives. Dana moved in permanently with her parents, becoming reclusive. Sasha visited her often, and while their bond wasn't as strong as Sasha's with Gianna, it improved over time. I never forgave Dana for the pain she caused me, though Gianna's love healed my heart completely. Over the years, Dana and Gianna became friends, and Gianna was one of the few who could coax Dana out of her shell. 20 years later, tragedy struck. Sasha was grown, married, and with her own family. Gianna and I had spent 2 decades full of love and happiness. She treated Sasha as her own, and though we didn't have children together, it didn't matter. One morning, I woke to find Gianna cold and still beside me. She had passed away in her sleep from a cerebral hemorrhage. The doctors said it was painless, and she died smiling in my arms. I withdrew completely, unable to function. Sasha stayed with me for 6 weeks, trying to help, but I refused to move in with her or her family. At 55, I was still healthy, but without Gianna, life felt meaningless. After Sasha left, I spiraled, drinking too much and eating too little. On the 3rd day, I woke to the smell of bacon. Starving, I stumbled into the kitchen. "What are you doing here?" I growled. "Dana," she said, flipping the bacon. "Sasha made me promise to take care of you. She wasn't the first. Gianna told me that if anything happened to her, I needed to come back into your life and take care of you. What if I don't want you here?" I snapped. "I'm staying," she said firmly. Dana admitted her mistakes. "I betrayed you for a man who only wanted to use me. I threw away the love of my life for nothing. After losing you, I went a little crazy, even tried therapy, but it didn't help at first. Then I became friends with Gianna. She made me see that my life wasn't over and pushed me to move forward. I started dating, but it never worked. Most men only saw my figure, not me. I eventually met a nice man who wanted to marry me, but I couldn't commit. Gianna told me it was because I still loved you. She cried for me because she cared, but she also loved you too much to ever let you go. Before she passed, she told me that if anything happened to her, I should take care of you, and maybe I'd have another chance. At first, I couldn't even look at Donna. She threw out my liquor, cleaned the house, cooked meals, and even made me clean myself up. Her visits were brief at first, but they grew longer over time. Though I didn't want her there, I couldn't deny that slowly something began to shift. After about a month, I grew used to Dana being around. By the second month, she stopped going home and began staying in the guest room. She cleaned the house, took care of things, and did her best to make my life easier. Occasionally, there were awkward moments, like catching a glimpse of her after a shower or in the bathroom. 3 months after Gianna passed, Dana insisted I wash my car. I still had 4 Mustangs, unable to part with any of them over the years. "Why do I need to wash my car?" I snapped. "Luke, tomorrow marks 3 months since Gianna died. You haven't visited her grave since the funeral. It's time. I know it'll hurt, but you need this to start healing. She'll always be a part of you, but you have years left before you see her again. You have to move forward," she said. Then with a small smile, she added, "I'll probably go to hell before you see her again. There's a special place there for people who betray the love of their life." I smiled back. "If that happens, I'll piss on you to cool you off." That moment marked a turning point for us. We started talking more and spending time together. Not romantically, but as close friends. We were both content with it. It took over a year before anything more happened. On Dana's birthday, which I'd forgotten, a card from Sasha reminded me. Feeling terrible, I planned to rush out and buy her a last-minute gift, but Dana stopped me. "There's something better you can give me," she said. "What do you want?" I asked. "1 hour tonight, fully clothed, with your arms around me in your bed," she said nervously. "That's not a present," I replied. "It would mean more than anything else," she said. "I'm not asking for intimacy. I just want to feel you hold me." That evening, she came to the room that had once been ours, wearing a thick flannel gown. Sliding under the covers, she smiled as I wrapped my arms around her. We fell asleep like that, nothing more. I woke the next morning with my hand on her chest and a stiff reminder of how close we were, but we both moved away awkwardly. Still, Dana walked around smiling for days. A week later, Dana twisted her ankle, and I took care of her. It felt like the least I could do after all she'd done for me. Besides, we lived in the same house, and neither of us wanted her to return to her parents' old home, which she'd inherited. After one night of her calling me repeatedly from her room, I moved her into mine so I could tend to her more easily. Her ankle stayed sore for weeks, though I suspected she was milking it to extend her stay. 2 weeks later, Dana never returned to the guest room, and neither of us mentioned it. One night, about a week after that, something more finally happened. I woke up to find Dana pressed against me, guiding my hands to her chest as she moaned softly. I couldn't resist. Pulling up her flannel gown, I pulled her close, and she responded with an urgency that left no doubt about her feelings. "Luke, I need you," she said breathlessly, and I didn't hold back. The first time was fast and intense, her nightgown nearly shredded in our eagerness. Dana's body had changed over the years, softer curves, fuller bosoms, but I realized how much I'd missed her. The second time, she took her time, moving slowly and deliberately, creating a deeply intimate and meaningful connection. By morning, we both understood that something between us had shifted. She kissed me gently and said she'd never stopped loving me. I told her I loved her too. Since then, we've been together. Not married, just living as partners. We love each other, share our lives, and enjoy intimacy without feeling the need for legal ties. After all, we'd seen where marriage had taken us before. Yesterday brought a funny moment. After a passionate night, Dana got up to make breakfast. We planned to leave early for a drive to Detroit in the Mustang for the Woodward Dream Cruise. As I stepped out of the shower, I heard her scream, "No way! Not this time!" followed by the sound of paper tearing. Curious, I found her calmly cooking in the kitchen. A few torn scraps of paper lay near the garbage, along with some unopened mail on the table. "What was that about?" I asked. "Just junk mail," she said with a smile. "Breakfast in 20 minutes, then we're hitting the road." I hugged her and played it cool, but later I retrieved the scraps from the trash and pieced them together in the basement. When I saw what it was, I laughed so hard I couldn't stop. It was an invitation for Dana to join the PTA.